Dukes Nation, this is your home for all things Duquesne University athletics, whether it's basketball or football or soccer or lacrosse or volleyball, track and field, golf, swimming, you name it, everything in between. If it's happening at UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse, Arthur J. Rooney Athletic Field, or anywhere our Dukes play, you're going to hear about it here. Hello and welcome, Dukes fans. You are looking at co-producer Rudy Longarini inside the worldwide headquarters and studios of All Dukes Sports Talk. I'm Bob Hugley III, joined as always by Nick Frost, and we are uniting Dukes Nation for a conversation on all things Duquesne University athletics. So without further ado, let's get to it, and let's go Dukes! Hey Dukes Nation, welcome back to All Dukes Sports Talk, your one-stop shop for all things Duquesne University athletics. I'm Bob Hugley III, joined as always by Nick Frost in Western Pennsylvania, Rudy Longarini out in California. Our guest this week, you know him if you're on the internet talking anything Duquesne University sports, especially the football team's history, which is his specialty, Mr. Mark Draskovich or Draskovich? What is it, Mark?
Draskovich, sir.
So Mark goes by
Draskovich.
Coffee. That's the handle if you've talked to him on the message boards and also gotten a look at his awesome website, which covers the history of Duquesne football. Mark, awesome to have you. We got a lot to talk about this week for sure. We're gonna really call upon your expertise and knowledge when we do our Duquesne University athletics Mount Rushmores in the second half of the show. This was a topic that Zach Weiss recommended. Zach, a huge friend of ours personally and also of the program. We're going to talk about Zach a couple times today when we get into the women's team and his great coverage there. But Zach recommended this topic. I could think of nobody else but Mark to join us because Mark is very well versed in Duquesne athletics history, and he'll give us a great football perspective because some people tend to forget just how incredibly decorated the football program at Duquesne has been all time. In fact, that's why my background, I moved into the football room of my house. And I got some 1941 programs behind me from that season, as well as a 1936 Pitt game, the 2024, 25, original backyard brawl, Pitt Duquesne Tau that I bought down at Acroshore this year. So this is my football side. Basketball's next door. Thought it was appropriate this evening. We're going to do the all-time Duquesne Mount Rushmore, men and women, our lifetimes, all time. And then we're going to do one with just the ladies. We're going to do an all-time Duquesne Athletics Mount Rushmore with women's athletes or coaches. And then we're going to do one of our lifetimes. And maybe we don't have one. Maybe we're going to talk about it and convince each other that ours maybe needed to add somebody or take somebody off. So that'll be fun. But we do have to start with some unfortunate news regarding the world of college athletics in general. And Duquesne has a cursory involvement in this. Now, luckily for us, our All Duke Sports Talk solicitor, Nick Frost, is on the call. And Nick, as the legal expert, I want you to kind of talk to us about what you learned having read through the indictment. I breezed through it, but not with maybe the eyes that you could put on it. Duquesne comes out of this relatively clean, right? So a lot of people don't understand that Duquesne's not implicated whatsoever, correct?
Correct. Not as players or coaches' involvement in these charges directly. We apparently benefited / didn't benefit from two games where opponents' players were alleged to have participated in point shaving. First game being against St. Louis at home. It was a dominant win for us against St. Louis, and supposedly the first half spread was bet on in part of the point shaving there. And then the second game being a Fordham game, which was really our only loss for a long time in the 2024 run.
It
Fordham.
came at the end of the regular season when we were kind of hot.
Yeah, Rose apparently was not part of the Fordham point shaving scandal because he went off and killed us that game. And there were some texts that basically said that Duquesne just wasn't hooping during that game. So more than 20
Hey,
players.
but I want to stress, just so you know, when you say not hooping, not because they weren't trying to.
No,
right. We just didn't have a good game.
Yeah, did not have a good game. Day was our leading point scorer that day with 10 of his 18 points coming from the free throw line. I remember that game being very frustrated watching it. Always hated playing Fordham. And now we came out victorious because this weekend. But as far as the implication goes, Duquesne's not involved. 20 players named in the indictment. There were more that were not named as well. So it is a very large scandal, and this is on the tail of some other prestigious names being named in indictments earlier this year in the basketball community, both in the pros
Right.
and college. So it's going to keep happening. I mean, the good news of legalized gambling is that you have all of these ways to check and identify any of these instances a little more clearly, and charges are going to be a little easier to be brought. The downside is we're going to find out how corrupt some sporting events are that we kind of watched, maybe ignorant to all of that in the past.
This is
Wow.
the Fordham win at Duquesne. Excuse me, at Fordham, I beg your
Sort of.
pardon, right?
Yeah,
This was at the Rose Hill Gym. And so this is Kyle Rose scoring 23 points on 8 of 12 shooting. I guess that put the kibosh on the fix because there were players from Fordham allegedly trying to, right, not perform well and maybe lose that game. This guy goes off and they end up winning. So Duquesne takes a loss, clearly doesn't affect their 24 season positively. Now, the other game, of course, we just talked about, I'm going to go back to the schedule, was
that St.
the
Louis game right there.
this one exactly right before it, right?
Yep.
So this is the game where Duquesne was favored in the first half and did cover 41 to 27. Now it was a much tighter second half, and according to the indictment, Nick, the players who underperformed in the first half kind of regressed to the mean positively in the second half, and it became a tighter game. Now you can't go back and say that Duquesne wouldn't have won this game anyway. So that's you can't simply say that it's a tainted win or something. I mean that's in the eye of the beholder, but also and I want to also point out that these are allegations only, right? So this is an ongoing process, but the relief for Duquesne people is that there were no Duquesne players implicated. Essentially, Duquesne happened to just be a bystander in this process, and our games were quote unquote affected. So we definitely wanted to get to that. I know, Coffee, you kind of had some questions before we went on the air about if this was halves or games. Did that answer your questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of concerned. I know that Duquesne won one of those games and lost one. I don't know if it was a bet on the first half or the entire game.
Yeah, the Fordham one, it was allegedly the entire game spread, and then the St. Louis game was supposed to be a first game spread, and is supposed to be again all allegations. They do have evidence supporting these allegations, but haven't been gone through the judicial process yet. And I saw one of the alleged or one of the players that were named in the indictment. His father is all over social media saying it's all hogwash and it didn't happen. So going to be very careful and not name any names just yet.
Yeah, exactly. So this process we'll have to carry out, but it is a relief for Duquesne folks. I know a number of people had messaged me about it. They're aware of the podcast. This is growing in popularity thanks to some great guests we've had. Of course, Keith Danbrough from last week was a fantastic show. We've had Megan McConnell on here and a few other heavy hitters for us. So the show's gaining in popularity, and people wanted us to answer some questions and maybe try to address it. So I hope we did. Now, here's some good news from the athletics department. Dukes did pick up a nice home win. Coincidentally, it was against Fordham, and it was at the Rose Hill Gym. It's a place we historically haven't played terribly well, but the Dukes were balling this game. And Jimmy Williams, 19 points on 7 of 12 shooting, 16 for Cam Crawford. As you can see, it was nice to see him get some buckets again. We wonder where he had been. Terrence Ginyard puts up 11 points, 9 assists, 6 steals. That's 4 rebounds. I mean, he almost had a quadruple nickel, what you can call it when you get 5 in every category. That's a pretty good game. That's a stat-filling game. I love Dave Dixon's game recently, guys. I think when he's in there, he still brings things positively. But some really big news is John Hugley's getting his way back into the fold. This was his second game since returning. He's yet to start, but he's been coming off the bench to contribute. The Dukes lost the prior game on the 13th at home against Dayton. The Dukes were in this game. Once again, there was some questionable officiating from Duquesne fans, from what I can tell. They were not happy with the officiating, I should say. But the Dukes very competitive, as you can see, 15-point games each from Jimmy Williams and Alex Williams. Netchus had 12. I know, guys, from what I'm seeing, I'm still a little frustrated that Netchus, who only put up how many shots? 5 field goals against Fordham and scored 4 points. I still want Netchus to shoot more. I think Keith was telling us in our last show that guy has all the ability in the world. And he kind of agreed with us in a way without necessarily calling out anybody, including Netchus, that he would love to. He thinks Jake has so much talent. Jakob has so much talent. It's a matter of confidence, understanding that, and maybe attacking more because he does tend to defer to people. But I'm very happy with the Fordham win. If you look at the Atlantic 10 standings, which I'm going to bring up now, it's a messy middle. The Dukes at 2-3 find themselves literally one game out of fourth place, as crazy as that is. And the top four, of course, are getting the byes. Now it's a very top-heavy conference still, with Dayton, St. Louis, and Mason all at 5-0, including Mason and Lewis at 17-1 each. So these teams, one of those two is going to get ranked pretty soon. Um, doesn't look like it's going to be a one bid league this year, which is very nice to get back into being a two or three bid league. But the Dukes are in the fight. They haven't played their best basketball yet, in my opinion. So I'm encouraged. Now, with the women, we can get into that next, but I want to go around to you guys about your thoughts on the men's team from the last couple of games that since the Dambrot show. And I'll start with Rudy. Your thoughts on the Fordham and Dayton games?
Well, uh, wow. There's a lot because I Hugley's back, obviously, and we're trying to integrate him into the offense. The way I look at it is that I think he's doing it right. Uh, um, I think from now on, the season going forward, that Dixon starts. Okay. And then if he gets in foul trouble, you put it in Hugley, and then you try to work the matchups. If Hugley goes off on a game, you obviously have him in the game more. But as far as starting is concerned, I think that Dixon should start every game, and then substitute Hugley in appropriately. Uh, Then also Cam Crawford, finally, we went into last week that basically his confidence, I thought his confidence was shot. And I said at the time that the only way you're going to get out of it, dude, is to look for your shot and to go with it, and to keep on filling it up, because you can't be a 42% 3-point shooter last year and then all of a sudden fall off the end of the earth. I think what's happened is that he has kind of taken a back seat in the offense to Williams and to Ginyard, which is understandable because you're going to try to get the ball into Williams to try to see what he can do in the first part of the shot clock, and then or Ginyard sees the first choice and then gets it into Williams. By the time that it gets around to the third person, like Crawford, many times he doesn't even get the opportunity because Ginyard or Williams is monopolizing the scoring. So what has happened, I think, this last game is that, he's just going to have to plant himself at the 3-point arc in the corner and wait till those guys get given the ball. And so, yeah, I think that's what I think of the game. We controlled it the whole way. And I just think that Dixon, by the way, both Dixon and Hugley got in foul trouble. I mean, they each had 4 fouls, right? I think.
I know.
Doing that.
Yeah, Dixon had 4 fouls in only 20 minutes, and Hugley had 3 in only 17.
Yeah.
Right. So the thing is that
at Fordham.
So I think the way that you play that situation is, as you keep Dixon out there because the offense flows better with him in there. Notice he never looks for a shot. He's always trying to pass the ball to the next cutter coming by his way. Okay. And Hugley really doesn't do that. He kind of but I think he's starting to turn on the light a little bit that if he doesn't have his shot, and not apparent, he's got to get rid of the ball. He can't monopolize the minutes trying to get him his own shot. If he doesn't have the shot immediately and he assesses it, okay, then he's got to pass it And I think maybe that message has gotten through to him. Also, I think defense, you know, you can't have Hugley out there as your major rim protector, okay? And that's why you need Nick Dixon. So thank
Yeah.
God he's back. But you know that there you have it. I don't
I
need to
still think the
say it.
Dukes. I know I said this before, like maybe in our last show, or it was the show before Keith, that I think the Dukes need Hughley to get where they want to get.
Right.
So and by the way, the what I heard on the air from both Ray Goss and Tim Benz, essentially they were reading a statement from the athletics department, is that it was, and I'll paraphrase, a violation of team rules and conduct. So we don't know precisely what Hughley was guilty of, according to
Right.
Drew and his staff, but that's what the suspension was for. Nick, your thoughts on the men's team last couple games?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's obviously a rejuggling of minutes to see what the rotation is going to look like. I like that Max got some more minutes in Fordham than he's been getting recently. I
Mm.
haven't really liked his lack of involvement. Um, Alex Williams has been a great addition where now with Dixon and Hugley, if they are
Yeah.
in foul trouble or injured, Alex Williams comes in at the 4, and Netches can slide over to the 5. And we can do that
Yeah,
route.
he's really a power. Yeah, I mean, he's been essential. You know, I'm telling you, ever since the Reno game
You
against
mean Alex Williams? Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
is clutch and he is I mean big. His
He's a
shoulders
big
just
dude. Yeah.
he's a big dude.
He's a big
And
dude.
and what happened in that, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I want to reinforce your point there, Nick. During the Reno game in Nevada, we were back, we got destroyed in the first half. And when we put Alex in there to defend the guy that was scoring on, that's how we got back into the game. Okay. You guys didn't see that. We had a power outage or something. Nobody could see it. I'm the only
Yeah.
goddamn Duquesne fan in the whole universe that got to see them play, you know? And and uh so yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to, but basically, he's integral now. We have to have him in the rotation from now on. Okay, no if and buts about it. He can't be on the bench or whatever. And they were covering on the game. I don't mean to monopolize it. They were covering the game. The two announcers that 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 the ideal way that you should run put people out there is 7 or 8, ideal 8 people that you should rotate. And we kind of don't do that. We kind of go like 9, 8, 10 deep. Okay. And so I think that when you add Hugley in there and then you add Alex Williams in there into the equation, okay, that brings that 7 or 8 to 9 or 10, and then you got to bring DeMichael in there. So I just disagree with their assessment. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I monopolized that.
It's all
No,
right.
it's great stuff. Go ahead,
One,
Nick.
one of those announcers being Dr. Giannini, who's a constant guest on 3 Bid League pod, giving them a shout out as well. And he did have that stance before the season that Duquesne has great depth, which is a strength and a weakness because an ideal rotation is 8, 9 deep, and we usually go 10, 11 deep with our roster. But I think we are getting closer to the 8, 9 number as the year goes on. Um, Jake is good off the bench. He's solid. He brings that defensive component that is not going to be lacking with him out there. Cam has been bringing that as well, and that's borne out by the plus minuses of the games, even the losses that's been pointed out several times over social media. So even though the offense hasn't been there, Cam still has been producing, and the offense came alive with the opportunities that he was given in the Fordham game. The real key is we obviously want Terrence to control things in our ideal scenario. If he's
Right.
taken out, then we need Jimmy Williams to step up. So as long
Right.
as Jimmy's not in foul trouble or injured, we're going to be fine. That VCU game was kind of our worst nightmare. I think we've gotten past that. The players understand their roles a little bit better, and we're going to move forward with who we have. Hugley is big because I don't think Milosevic or Van Bussel I mean, we talked about in non-conference. I don't know how they'll match up against these athletic bigs in the A10. So having Hugley there, Netchus, and Dixon as the majority of the minutes at the center position, I think is really going to be our key to
Right.
success.
Mark, you've been patient. Yeah, anything you want to add from the men's hoop side?
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, sitting back and watching the season so far this year, I think it's kind of a good news, bad news type of situation. Yeah, we're 2-3 in the conference, but we could very easily be 4-1. I think
Mm.
we're only out of one of the games. We played very well against Dayton. We should have won, I think, against St. Joe's. I think it was an awkward way to lose. Um,
Mhm.
like I said, we very easily could be 4-1. You go all the way back to the Nevada game. We were competitive in that in the second half. This kind of
Right.
reminds me.
Absolutely.
I think this kind of reminds me of the 24 season when we kind of slow started, but we kind of learned roles and learned how to use the players. Your point about Dixon is excellent. I think Dixon was kind of seeing himself as being a bench player until Hugley went out. Dixon stepped up and did it big time. Finding Crawford, I think, is an excellent find. I think he's one of those players that you don't know how good he's going to be until you see him do it in the game.
So I will say this. I agree. Sat back and agree with everything everyone's saying so far. I mean, Nick, my point of contention early on was that rotation was a little deep, and I do like much more being 7, 8, 9. But it feels a lot like 24. We said that a few times on this show that it feels like they had the depth that needed to be ironed out in the early part of the conference schedule and throughout the non-conference schedule. The difference, of course, being guys, is there's no Superman to bail you out on this team. So there's no Day, there's no Jimmy. I mean, Keith said as much when he was on the show. We don't have those guys. But boy, they are good in a lot, not great in any one place, but they seem to be good everywhere and deep everywhere. So I think the next week's going to be very telling. I think if this team gets above 500 in conference play and gets on a roll like it did in 24, which really kind of took them until February to do that last time, when they were competitive in this conference. We'll see. I'm still optimistic. I really am. And good for Coach Joyce to put his foot down with Hugley. That's not easy to do. There's money involved in that guy. There's expectations there. But he thought it was important enough to take out, really our biggest offseason acquisition, both literally and figuratively. And make a statement, for the team. So we'll see if that pays off in the locker room and with accountability, right?
Yeah,
Good. What are you gonna say, Rudy?
No, nothing. The only other thing is to add to the point on the rotation, 8 or 9 players. GM, I think that his comment is a little short-sighted and a little old-fashioned because in this day and age, if you don't play your players and give them some run, as many players as you can, you're going to lose some of those players because they were not part of the 8 or 9 or
Very
whatever
true.
7.
Yeah, very
Okay,
true. Guys got to eat
and
now because they're
and
they're
now
paid to
people
be here.
and these kids now they go, okay, if I'm going to play for the Dukes, okay, and I'm going to put in my let's say I'm a recruit or not in the portal. Let's say I'm another uh player from another program, okay? You want to go to a place that is going to play you,
Hmm.
okay?
It's
You
fair.
know, you
Yeah.
don't want and so when uh Drew talks to these players, the first question out of them is, well, am I going to get to play? Am I going to be in the rotation? What are your assurances? And Drew's gonna say, dude, we go 10 deep on this team.
Hmm.
We go 9 deep on this team. If you're good and you perform, you're gonna be in there.
Bob, I
And
think. I'm sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry, Mark.
No, I was going to say, Bob. I think to be honest with you, this might be a blessing in disguise to have John go through what he did. I think
Yeah.
it's a message to the team saying that, look, you have to have not only the right talent but the right attitude to play, and I'm going to reward that attitude. And if you don't have it, you're not going to play. I think it's a message to the rest of the team, and I think you've all seen teams that kind of fall apart because they reward the players with the best talent, but not necessarily the best attitude.
Hmm. Fair, very fair. Um, Guys, I was just showing there before coffee chimed in that the conference stats, 13 blocks in 5 conference games for Dave. Love that.
Yeah.
13 blocks and 5 steals. That's a
Yeah,
guy who
he's an
won.
intimidator. Let
Yeah.
me tell you something. There's no guard in the A10 that's going to go in against Dixon. Okay, nobody. They will try it against Hugley. Okay, but there's not one guard that's going to go in the paint and try to score over unless it's a center. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's very few of those guys. And he blocks them too. So I mean, you
Yeah.
know, uh, the thing is that I think that it's been an opportunity that we have taken advantage of in the sense that, when Keith went last week, he said the turning point of our season last season was when Day Day went out after our
Hmm.
five, during our five, uh, uh, game losing streak. And you know what had to happen is DeMichael somebody had to take his minutes,
Yeah.
and DeMichael took his minutes. Okay, and he developed into being basically a glue, if you will, of the team, and kind of is that now. But the thing is that uh, he's so uh, it's just that's just
Yeah.
the way I see
I'm
it.
with you. It ended up amping up Dixon's minutes out of necessity, and we're
Right.
seeing what he can do. Dave wanted to be the defensive player of the year. I don't know if he'll have enough minutes to get that on a team that's not going to be one of the runaway top three, but he should be all defensive, with those blocks and steals in conference play. And I also noticed this: not only is Natchez 4 out of 7 from three in conference play, Jakob, if you're watching this, Jakob, you are 12 of 26 from three. You're shooting 46% from three. You're shooting over
Yeah.
50 cent. You're shooting over 50%
Keep
from
it
three in
going.
conference play. Jakob, shoot, buddy. I mean, you're just shoot. You got all the ability in the world. He's almost like with the years that Sidney Crosby decided he was going to win the scoring titles with assists because he was so good enough he could. And then somebody told him once in the offseason, how come you don't score more goals? And then he went and led the league in goal scoring the next year because he had that kind of ability. Jakob, you can score. We know you can pass. You're a great five-tool player out there, if you will. But shoot, buddy. Yeah, and I think he's going to be here. By the way, he's one of those guys like Dave, like the Michael, who are going to be
Well,
here
be
for
there.
all four
Yeah,
or five
he's
years.
not
So
going anywhere.
yeah,
He
I hope
loves it
not.
here, man.
Knock
Yeah,
on
I
wood.
think it's
I
part.
don't I don't want to
I
jinx
knock
that.
on wood. Knock on wood.
Okay, maybe so,
Yeah.
but uh, I don't know. I think these Eastern European players have a little bit different outlook about the uh this because he's getting an these guys I think value their education more too, by the way.
Could be, could be. We'll see.
I think because they realize that they're getting an education in a prime university to be able to then be able to go into the market here in the United States. Not that he's not going to play professionally in Europe, by the way. He's
Right.
going to almost be guaranteed someplace in Europe that he's going to be able to play. So, dude, I think they're different. They're cultivated different. They grow up different than us, and they're not as I hate to say it, they're not as money hungry as us here in the United.
Well,
We're,
yeah, maybe,
yeah,
and who knows? It could be a cultural difference. You don't know where, a lot of folks in the United States grow up with basketball as their ticket to, get a college education. But then when they're here, they get tempted by the idea that you can make some short-term money. And I don't know Netch's family background, but I love the fact that he is coming here maybe to get the education. And again, we're just speculating. Who knows? But
right.
I like the idea that he might be here long term. He seems to like it. He's one of those guys left over from the championship core, which I love because we still have, some of them left. Guys, we got a lot to get to, so I'm gonna
All
just
right,
quickly
sorry.
mention. No, no, it's great stuff, and it's exciting stuff. But I want to quickly mention what's coming up in the week ahead. So the Dukes will come back home rather to play St. Louis. So speaking of, look, we just played Fordham. They're gonna play St. Louis in the wake of all this news. But the Dukes are gonna play St. Louis at the Coop at 7 p.m. on Tuesday the 20th. You can hear and see that on ESPN Plus. You can hear it on iHeartMedia if you search keyword Duquesne. You get to hear Ray Goss and Noah Buono. So the great Ray Goss, whom I'm going to mention later, tease in this broadcast. But that's a 7 p.m. tip-off. Students, you got to be there. It makes such a difference. It really does. And St. Louis isn't going to travel the way Dayton did, but St. Louis loves their basketball. So if they're there, let's drown them out. Okay. So St. Louis, 7 o'clock Tuesday, and then at Loyola Chicago, 2 p.m. Saturday before we have our next show. So that's what's up for the Duquesne men. Now let's talk about the Duquesne ladies, and this isn't going to be nearly as fun to talk about. And therefore, we're not going to spend as much time on it because there's not that much really to say, except for they are really, really, really struggling. Nothing's going right. And that was compounded today when Zach Weiss reports to me and on Twitter that Alexis Bortis left the game not putting any weight on her left leg. She had to be helped off by the trainers. No weight on the lower left leg. Um, that's a gigantic loss. Frankly, guys, it's been like the Bortis show for us trying to carry this team for a couple of weeks now. Dukes fell today, Sunday, January 18th, where we're recording. They fell in a 1:30 game at Rhode Island, 70-50 today. Before that, on Wednesday at 6 p.m. against George Washington at home, the Dukes lost 59-45. Um, they've just now lost, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six in a row. And again, are 0, and that's since the Pitt game. So they hit that high point, blowing out Pitt at home in a game everyone loved. I was there. Kids got the post. I got the Alexis Bortis post game autograph. It was huge fan of hers. Sorry to see her get hurt today, but it's just been a train wreck since then, and because it is off the rails. Zach Weiss did a great job. There's an article you can find on the on3.com outlet, on3.com. It's called Inside the Dukes, analyzing Duquesne women's basketball struggles, Duquesne WBB apostrophe S struggles. That's Zach Weiss, a really great, insightful report about what's going on in that program. Zach basically quotes Dan Burden there a bunch, saying that he's struggling to find the words to describe what he's feeling about this team. They don't take care of the ball. They're turning it over 20 or more times a game. And there's a vicious cycle happening where the Dukes have no confidence and they have no experience to draw on other than failure because they're so young and they graduated so many people or lost people to transfers. And so they're not drawing on any college success. It's becoming overwhelming and that's leading to more failures. And that's what all they're drawing on is the failure. Nick, you've been watching this team up close. What have I not said so far that you're observing about this team?
Yeah, so today we were actually pretty competitive at the start, which is surprising because Rhode Island is a top team in the A10. They're undefeated. They upset Richmond earlier this year. They have a real shot of being a top 25 team by the end of this season. And we actually had a lead after the end of the first quarter. The third quarter, kind of around when Bortis got hurt, is really when Rhode Island started jump the lead a little bit more and more. Um, there were some positives at the end of the game. And throughout the game, Fatu Sane looked really good in this one. 9 points, which I honestly don't know if that's her career high. It might be. She's a defensive strength to the team. That's usually her biggest asset. Her adding some offense and really attacking Rhode Island today was really encouraging. So her minutes could go up, and then Dunya looked good at the end of the game. And I've been talking to Zach about that. She does look good in her limited minutes. I'm hoping that they get some more opportunities. Obviously, with Alexis down, and then Gabby Grantham Medley also scared us by going down at the end of the third quarter as well. She came back in the game afterwards, but that's the guards are not healthy. Nadia out, Gabby got banged up, Alexis. I mean, we'll see how bad the injury is, but based off of what it looked like on TV and how Zach described it from the radio broadcast, not looking good. So guards might be a problem, which means Mac Black is back to being a person that we have to rely on. Reina's going to have to step up. Maybe these injuries are going to force these players to become more of the leaders that Dan has been looking for. So I don't know, looking for any silver linings that I can. I think I've found some that we can try to hang our hats on and look
But
for here.
boy, Mark or Rudy, I don't know if you want to comment on this again today. 22 turnovers to 5 assists. Not winning basketball. Mark, you've been watching the women's team.
Not
I don't know
much
what to.
as
Go ahead.
No, go ahead,
Mark, go
Rudy.
ahead.
No, no,
You
no,
Mark,
Mark,
guys don't
please.
want to talk about this? You sure?
No, not as much as the guys team, but I was going to make the same point that Nick made. With Hugley out, Dixon steps up. I mean, with Alexis out, obviously somebody's going to have to step up. And when you have a team that depends on one person, and that person goes out, it really forces other leaders to come and take their place for a little bit. Hopefully, the injury is not serious, and it might be, like you said, a silver lining for the Dukes.
Rudy?
Well, not much to add, dude. I don't want to beat up on the girls, uh, unnecessarily. Um, they're young, like I stated before, and it just looks like, rest of the girls are going to have to step up if there's going to be any extended absence of Bortis. And in a good sort of way, you know, maybe it's good because we really rely too much, if you ask me, on Bortis to carry the load, and I think if she's gone for any extended period of time, and I hope not, but the rest of the girls have to step up, uh, and go with it, go forward, and that's all I got to say.
Well, before we can talk to you guys again about any news for Duquesne basketball, there are going to be a couple more games. The Dukes will stay conference, play against Dayton at the Cooper Fieldhouse. This is 6 p.m. Wednesday, the 21st. Always nice to play Dayton, so turn out for that one, please, folks. It'll be fun. It's always fun to play the local team with a lot of support, the nearby team anyway, with Dayton, that is. Then on the 24th, they ought to get a real nice attendance on that weekend game. It's Catholic school youth teams game, so there'll be a lot of those in attendance, post-game autographs. Those are always awesome. Bringing, especially when you can bring youth girls to the game to see the big girls play. So that'll be 2 o'clock Saturday the 24th. These are both at the Cooper Fieldhouse. Although it's not a Catholic school team, my Baldwin Whitehall fifth graders, I helped coach fourth and seventh, but I was able to get the fifth graders a slot to play at halftime. So we're not a Catholic school, but we'll be playing at halftime, the Baldwin Whitehall fifth graders on the 24th. So that'll be cool. I hope to get there and watch. My fourth graders, by the way, are going to play on February 24th, no, 28th on senior day. So I'm looking forward to that. I get to ref it again at halftime. But yeah, get down to the coop, support the ladies. It's a great program. I do believe in Dan and his staff, but they're just going through some growing pains right now. So our best to them. Guys, some real big news came from the Duquesne football program. Big loss for the Dukes. We talked about how they're losing some players to the transfer
Right.
portal. But here's some big news as well. The Duquesne Dukes are going to lose one of their top assistants, a gentleman named Mickey Jacobs. So Mickey is a former student of mine, actually. Mickey is a very quick riser in college football. He's has a great big future ahead of him. Everywhere he's gone, he's had success. He's one of those guys that's just magnetic. He's a real leader of men, as they say. And I don't want to put this pressure on him, but this dude, when got to meet Mike Tomlin in his first season because I helped the Steelers work the draft from the media relations side, and it was Mike's first draft, so I got to shake Mike's hand and meet him when he was a very young man and was working for the Steelers, as head coach. And the presence he had with the handshake he had and the way that he spoke and handled himself, Mickey reminds me of that guy. He's just a great young, bright mind, and he's working his way through the program. He was a Duquesne player. He eventually moved up to coaching special teams. He spent 4 years actually at Pitt as well, helping University of Pittsburgh football. He came back to the Dukes in 2018 as a defensive quality control coach, and the Dukes just went up and up ranking wise nationally on defense since then. He's also helped with special teams and had incredible success there. He has been defensive coordinator since the 2024 season, after helping Duquesne to a Northeast Conference title and an FCS playoff appearance when he was safeties coach and special teams coordinator. And now Mickey is headed to, oh gosh, why am I stumped right now? Is it
UConn.
Oregon State?
UConn.
UConn. Why the hell did I say
Linebacker
Oregon
coach
State? I'm
at
so sorry.
UConn.
I think I was thinking about the players who transferred. Excuse me,
Yeah.
UConn. So Mickey's heading to the Huskies, and our loss is their gain for sure. Good luck to Mickey Jacobs. He'll be a Duquesne Duke for life. Again, former player and longtime coach here for still such a very young man. He got into coaching right after his playing career was over. So we wish good luck to Mickey. And now the Duke's got to fill a defensive coordinator spot, which is cool and exciting. Maybe Mike Tomlin will come take the job. Who knows? But or maybe the Steelers ought to interview Mickey Jacobs. I think to be quite honestly, guys, Mickey's like 10 years away or less from getting some time in the NFL. I really do think he's one of those guys. Lives and breathes the football, great leader, has the respect of his players. So good luck to Mickey. I don't know if anyone has any comments to say about Mickey. Mark, you follow the football team closer than maybe anybody on here but me, so your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it says a lot about the respect that Duquesne has for one of his coaches, for one of Jerry's Schmidt's coaches to actually go to UConn, go from a D2 to a D1 school. The respect that they have, it's obvious that Duquesne's taken seriously for people to start taking some of Schmidt's coaching tree.
And I want to point out Mickey will be the linebackers coach at UConn. Yeah, so that's officially his role there. But good point, Mark. Coaches are judged a lot by their tree, how many branches they have, and all the success their proteges can have. So this is a guy from that Schmidt tree, and Schmidt, of course, is a guy from the Gattuso tree. If you look at it
Mhm.
that way too. So it's a lot of branches. It's pretty cool to see. So congrats to Mickey and good luck. Some other really cool news, and I'm going to bring this website press release up. The NCAA has included for the 2027 year or championship acrobatics and tumbling as an official championship sport. So acrobatics and tumbling has been a varsity sport at Duquesne for now 2 academic years. This is the second season coming up for acrobatics and tumbling at Duquesne, and it has been varsity the whole time. But it's now a elevated not just from being varsity, but it being a national collegiate championship. So this is the 93rd NCAA championship, according to an NCAA press release. Again, starting in 2027, so not this coming winter and spring in 2026, but as of 2027, Duquesne will be eligible for this, along with any other varsity athletics program that has an acrobatics and tumbling team. So when you hear National Collegiate Championship, guys, or the NC abbreviation, it means that it's not divisions, right? So there's not a Division One, Division Two, Division Three title. It's just one for all of the NCAA. And this happens a lot when sports are kind of new and have graduated in a way from the emerging category to full championship status. So this includes acrobatics and tumbling. And I think in many ways, guys, this is one of the best opportunities the Duquesne Dukes will have at an NCAA championship. We've never had an NCAA team championship formally, right? Like a full college athletics holy grail, the wood plaque and metal that makes up that cool trophy that goes to NCAA champions. Bowling has a good shot at this maybe one day, and acrobatics and tumbling now has a pretty good shot at this. So, congratulations to all the programs out there that have a chance to compete at this championship coming up in 2027. I think that's pretty cool. So we'll be watching the acrobatics and tumbling team again this year. It was a really cool spectator sport. A lot of students turned out for it. I know I brought my kids to it, and my girls loved it. And they compete at the Cooper Fieldhouse, just like basketball and volleyball does. And so it's a cool venue to come watch the game. Hopefully, they open up concessions. The first time Duquesne had a meet, they didn't have concessions open, and they should have. They missed a chance to make some money. I think at the second meet, they started opening up concessions. It's really fun, and the way it's scored and the different categories that they go through. There's a pyramid building, if you will, right? There's like individual stunting that goes on in it, and there's a running scoreboard, and they do a pretty decent job of letting you know like what the score is as it plays out. First meet's going to be February 12th this year at 6 p.m. against West Liberty at the Cooper Fieldhouse. As of this year, then, the best chance at a quote unquote national title will be like a coaches association thing. The NCATA or National Collegiate Acrobatics and Tumbling Association National Championship will be April 23rd through the 26th. Not NCAA, but that's what their national championship capabilities are this year. So 2027, we'll see what happens there. Um, Guys, there's something else now that I thought I teased at the beginning of the show that I want us to get into, and that'll be our Mount Rushmores. So I did some research ahead of this, and I certainly don't mind going first. I love this sort of stuff. You guys know that I'm a Duquesne athletics kind of super fan. I love the history of it. Written some books about it, and so I was really excited to put this list together. Again, what we're going to do is talk about um, the all-time Mount Rushmore. Could be men, could be women, could be basketball, football, what have you. You decide what you think is the top four, all-time heads on the Mount Rushmore for Duquesne athletics, and then we'll do one that is just ladies. I think to be fair, because they haven't had a chance to compete as long as the men have on the bluff, so we should do one of our all-time women's Mount Rushmore. And then I thought just to maybe bring it to more modern times to help our fans and followers just in our lifetimes, who would be our top four. So I certainly have my all time. I'm going to do that first, guys, and then I'm going to justify it, and you let me know what you think. So here's mine, and it's in no particular order. I'm not doing the whole like this guy started the country and this guy united the country and this guy expanded the country. Not like actually how Mount Rushmore was made. We'll stick with the common understanding that it's like the big four most noteworthy. So my top four in no particular order are going to be Chuck Cooper. I could speak about his laurels and go into great detail. I'll just give you the highlights. The guy's a Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame player. As of 2019, he was the first black player ever drafted to an NBA team, and he was the first team All-American in 1950 by Look magazine in the Converse yearbook. Number 15 jersey retired at Duquesne. He was the captain of the 1950 squad, which was the first Duquesne team to be ranked by the AP for their entire season. They finished 23-6, ended up number 6 in the rankings. People think of Duquesne, one of the first names they think of, and we're talking Duquesne University in general, not just sports. They think of Chuck Cooper because he was that kind of like sort of the Jackie Robinson of basketball, if you will. So to me, Chuck Cooper's got to be on there. And then I have a couple of basketball coaches on there, Chick Davies and Duty Moore. And I struggled with putting Red Manning on here as well over either of these guys, but I thought about it and looking at the numbers, Chick Davies, he had a 314 wins to 106 losses. So, he coached at a time before college basketball was kind of what it is now. But from 1925, if we're just going by the spring semester, from 25 to 43, and then from 47 to 48, the guy had 314 wins. His 748 winning percentage is the greatest in Duquesne basketball history. He made the NCAA Final Four in 1940. His 1947 team went 20-2, which was best among independent schools. Chick Davies got to be on there. But if I don't know if he's the best coach in school history, because then there's Duty Moore, who had way fewer seasons, 1949 to 58. But this dude had a 732 winning percentage, including being the runner-up at the NIT in 54, won the NIT in 55 when that arguably was the national championship. He has a winning record in the NIT, which no Duquesne coach had. At 11-7, he had 520-win seasons. He averaged 19.1 wins per year. So those are my two basketball coaches. And then I finished with another basketball player. And look, I thought about it, it hurt me to leave football off because I am a Duquesne football player, and that's what most people remember me as. But um, I went through the list and I just couldn't get anybody on there to bump out Dick Ricketts. Dick Ricketts was a three-time basketball All-American, second team in 53, consensus second team in 54, consensus first team in 55, has his number retired. Duquesne went 92-19 in 4 seasons when Dick Ricketts was on the team. He averaged 17.7 points and 12.2 rebounds. This is before the three-point shot. He still holds school records for career points and rebounds. And again, before the three-point shot, he was he and Cy Hugo Green helped the team to the 55 title. Duquesne was a top 10 team in each of his 4 seasons on the Bluff, including getting to number 1 during the 54 season. He was the NBA's number 1 draft pick in 55. They had a 3-year NBA career, but guys, he also went to the major leagues as a pitcher. And the dude batted 400 in 4 seasons of playing Duquesne baseball. So this dude, and I have a soft spot for multi-sport athletes. So there's my Mount Rushmore, guys. Cooper, Davies, Moore, and Ricketts. And I'm going to throw it to Nick Frost. I'm going to give you second pass at this, and you feel free to tell me who I missed, or feel free to agree.
All right. Well, I'll leave out the details because I think Mark will be able to elaborate more. But I'll add Aldo, uh, Buftonelli to mine, and Cumberland Posey was also on my list along with Chuck Cooper. Uh, as for the fourth, that's where I was kind of torn between coaches and players, and I looked up other sports too just to try and get some added sport recognition. I'm going Jim Spizak for track
Oh, wow.
get another sport added to it. I don't think that it's necessarily great, but I mean Cumberland Posey and Chuck Cooper, two Naismith Hall of Famers, I feel like need to be on there. Donnelly being the Duquesne football representative, I think was fitting, and then just felt like I needed to get another sport thrown in there.
I love the Spizak pick, but I'm going to push back and say that to me, the best track and field and cross country athlete in school history was Tom Slosky. And I was Tom's teammate. So I'm biased, but Tom was the first Duquesne athlete in history to ever make it to the NCAA final in a sport. So he made it to the NCAA final in cross country, and he made it to the NCAA final in steeplechase and track. Like he got to the final heat. Spizak did this all after him. Tom likes to say Spizak's the best runner Duquesne ever had, but Tom was the dude who kind of broke that first. I was torn between those two as well, but I couldn't leave off the. I'd have to bump someone like Ricketts or Green for that. So, but those that Spizak's a good pull. So, Mark, do you agree with Evan Donnelly on there? You probably do.
No, absolutely. He was one of my four for a lot of reasons. Not only was he a great football player, he was a great football coach. He was a great soccer player too. I don't know if you know it, but he's in the American Soccer Hall of Fame.
Oh,
So then he went on to coach at Columbia and Boston College, I believe. So he had a heck of a career at Duquesne and after.
Yeah, Buff Donnelly, people don't realize what he accomplished at Duquesne, as this football stuff. Because Mark, I mean, might be a good chance for you to talk about this. Like, I know I hinted at the beginning of the show, I have all these, programs behind me from Duquesne football history, especially the 1941 season, which many say was the national championship team. Duquesne football's, nothing to turn your nose up at in terms of history.
Yeah, when you look at the Dukes, especially Buff Donnelly's coach teams, I mean, he was an excellent player, but he probably had more of an impact as a coach. Not only were the Dukes ranked number one by Ken Massey in 1941, they only played 8 games that year because Pitt pulled out of the game that they're supposed to play, and they didn't get an offer for a bowl team. In 1939, the Dukes turned down the Cotton Bowl and the Sun Bowl, and the bowls were kind of reticent to invite the Dukes back again since they had turned down other bowls. They were even offered the Olympic Bowl that they turned down. But when you look at what he did in 1941 alone, not only were they ranked number one, they were ranked by AP as well, fairly high. They only yielded 21 points in the entire season. That record has
wow.
not been matched. 21 for the
Yeah, I think
entire
five
season.
five or six shutouts, I think,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. So Buff and Nanelli, definitely, I agree with Nick there. The other ones I have, you want me to go into them?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I'm going to throw a curve at you here. I'm going to see if anybody knows who Dan Barr was.
Dan Barr, Barr.
B A
Yeah,
R
I
R.
know the name. Oh, yeah. By the way, you're disappearing like a ghost here somehow. Maybe you're
Yeah,
too close to the
get back.
camera. There you
Yeah, pull
go.
back. Yeah,
How's that?
yeah.
I was like
Don't
thinking like Ray Goss, like great ghosts alive. This whole time he's been talking about coffee. Was Dan Barr not the AD, like the guy who essentially started the athletics department? Am I thinking right?
Yeah, actually, he was a player and a coach and team captain. He started the football team in 1891. So they had a fairly good team. He coached it for 2 years. He had a winning record. Back then, the scores were not always recorded, but he coached a winning record. And probably the most important contribution he made to Duquesne's football history and Duquesne's basketball history when he invited Pitt to play their first game in 1891. Unfortunately, they lost, and the scoring is kind of strange, 4-2. They played in a place called Marion Center down in Hazelwood, and he started the tradition that whenever Pitt would think that Duquesne had a chance of winning, they didn't want to play him again.
Yeah, that's right. It's still going.
Yeah, so that's Dan Barr's big contribution there.
We
So
got Barr, we got Danelli, and did I hear who's your other two?
I got Elmer Layden, one of the four
Yeah.
horsemen in Notre Dame, Duquesne coach. He coached Denelli himself. He's the one who really turned the football team around. When he started, they said he only had 2 uniforms that were fully complete. So he went from nothing to something. Um, and unfortunately, as soon as he started winning, he went back to Notre Dame to coach. Later became an NFL commissioner. And Elmer Layden, of course, one of the four horsemen in Notre Dame. A lot of people don't realize how important he was to football and especially Duquesne. Um,
Good call.
and last one, I kind of copied Nick there, but Cumberland Posey. The guy was not only a Naismith Hall of Fame player, he was also in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He was captain of their golf team, if you want to put together another sport to be mentioned for the Dukes. He captained their golf team and football team, and even played football, halfback and quarterback in 1916 to 1919. Um, Kind of interesting thing. He had to put his name down as Charles Cumber when he played at Duquesne. Kind of an interesting thing of trivia to maintain his eligibility.
Yeah, I'm going through, by the way, I'm scrolling through this duquesnesports.blogspot.com website, which is Coffee's Duquesne football history page, and it's just riddled with great stuff like this. That's a great call. Oh, I know number 64. That's me. It's a great call, by the way, Coffee, to pull, and Nick, to pull Cumberland Posey. And I struggled with that because he is, just like Chuck Cooper, a pioneer for Black, American sports. My only holdup or hang up was, when he didn't play as long here basketball wise as Cooper did, and he did play under that alias and was kind of an unknown. But you're right that he was a multi-sport athlete here, even though a lot of it wasn't recorded. So that's very fair. I mean, the dude is in both the baseball and basketball halls of fame. I just, one of them is as a player, and the other one is as an administrator with baseball, and he wasn't necessarily a baseball coach here. So, excuse me, I was on the fence about him. But can't argue with it,
Jim
really.
Thorpe.
Can't argue with it. Yeah.
There's a lot
It's a
of
good
great names
four.
to pick from.
It's a good, yeah, they're good foursomes. All right, Rudy, what do you got, brother?
Well, dude, I'm kind of going off the board. Uh, I- as much as I love history, and I was a history and poli sci major in college at Duquesne. Uh,
Dr.
I really,
Maurice.
I I can't really say one way or the other uh, too much about Duquesne football, and I know that I should be more of a user of your site, Coffee, there, and looking up the history, because you've basically been the only person doing this on you ended up complimenting me before recording that you were saying you really appreciated what we're doing here. And I got to tell you the same thing about your end. Okay, involvement with the history of Duquesne University sports. So, major shout out for that. Uh,
Yeah, here.
and so, dude, I gotta put Norm Nixon in there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know that most people don't see it that way because but uh I think it's because he's such a modest individual. It seems to me. I've been in the elevator. The closest I ever got to Norm Nixon being in the elevator in the towers dorm. Okay, uh, so um, um, so the thing is that I got to go back to what I know. Okay, and what I know is Norm Nixon. And he got drafted by took us to the Eastern Eight. Uh, you know, uh, his classic jump shot, where he arches his back kind of and hits. Uh, all the stories about him dunking on reverse dunk on Detroit. Uh, you know. Dick Vitale coaching that Detroit team, by the way. Uh, and getting drafted number one by the Lakers. And let me tell you something, dude. I never gambled when I was well. No, I gambled a little bit going down to the bars and on the Steelers and stuff because we won with the Dallas Cowboys when I was there. Okay, and but once once uh, Norm was drafted by the Lakers, man. That whole season, dude. The whole season, I bet on the Lakers to beat the spread. I don't know how many times, and that guy came through for me. The Lakers came through for me that year like nobody's business, man. And he was the leading guard. Got to play with Kareem and basically got forced out of the position because who are you going to play when you got Magic Jackson, I'm Michael Johnson sitting on the bench. So You know, yeah, and then they exiled him to the Clippers. I mean, and that's why I got to hate the Lakers afterwards, dude. I thought that that was like an insult that he should you know be treated that way, and basically sidelined to as an afterthought. I think that he could have, you know minus Magic Johnson being on the team, he could have taken that position for another 3 or 4 years, being the starting point guard for the Lakers. So just major shout out to him. Then,
Hey, listen, Norm Nixon's still the career leader in field goals at Duquesne. Number
right.
retired, and like Dick Ricketts, like Cy Hugo Green, he was a number one. He was a first round draft pick in the NBA. So yeah, again, a lot of good names. It's not like you can't go wrong picking Storm and Norman.
Yeah. And then you got to put on the Mount Rushmore Chuck Cooper. I mean, you got to be an idiot if you otherwise, but particularly if we're talking about just basketball, okay? Uh, and then, dude, I know that I could have put in one of the coaches, and you touched on Chick Davis, which I probably would have put in there, and then Dede Moore, and I just got to say that I chose Keith, man,
Dambrot,
dude,
sure.
dude, you got to put him on there, and what he did to the program turned it around. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, he was the major factor of why we got that tournament run and NCAA victory. Without him, none of that would have been possible. Just like he was saying when we interviewed him last week, by the mere fact that he got to coach LeBron gets you immediate cred with any college kid that he's trying to recruit. Okay. And we never would have had that luxury of being able to have a high profile coach without the presence of a Dambra. And also, I got to say, dude, I got to put him on there also because, uh, his father, you know, we maybe we ought to put him as a fifth person on the on run because he's responsible for getting us Keith.
In
Okay,
many ways.
so
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, right. First of all,
I
he
mean,
traded him. Yeah. Yeah, right. I
okay,
know. No, see, Keith's like it's like being a Pirates fan, the way that we love Andrew McCutchen. It's like no one thought that the Pirates would ever win again. And it was like just a moribund franchise. And then a guy comes here and wins the MVP and takes you to the playoffs. And that's how Duquesne basketball fans feel about Dambrot. It just wouldn't have been possible, right? He's the guy.
yeah, and so and then I gotta go with you on Dick Ricketts. And then, I got to read about Cumberland Posey. So, yeah, I'd put Cumberland Posey in there too. I just don't know that much about football to elaborate on it. But, Mark did an outstanding job about talking about Cumberland Posey. And, he was just like, a jackknife of all trades and baseball player, whatever. So, yeah,
Hmm.
that's who I would have. But then, you know, I thought that you were going to include the top five people, top four on the Mount Rushmore to be also women. So
I
I
got one
added
for you.
Meg. Okay, so
Okay,
I
well, hold
added.
that. I want you to
All
hold that
right,
thought. I want you to hold
all
that
right. So
thought.
that's it.
I wouldn't have put
That's
Meg
it.
McConnell on my all-time Mount Rushmore top four because just frankly, women's sports wasn't played at Duquesne for the very longest time, and only
Right.
very recently did we see some great success there. But I do have an all-time top four for women. Again, in no particular order. If I'm going to jump to a
Well, we're
women's
gonna
Mount
get to Nick.
Rushmore,
Well, we're gonna get
uh,
to Nick, or
Rob
no,
can lead
Nick
off.
gave us his Mount Rushmore four.
all right, all right,
Yeah.
all
But
right.
let's do our so
Okay, go
here's my
ahead.
four ladies, okay? Corey Halede. She played for Duquesne from 1995 to 1998. Corey Halede is like the Babe
Right.
Ruth of Duquesne women's basketball. Her numbers are crazy. She scored 2,631 points. She averaged 24.1 points per game. And she has the top four single season scoring averages in school history. Corey Halede, it begins and ends there in terms of like, she's like the Wayne Gretzky or Mary Lemieux for Duquesne women's basketball. So just a phenomenal player. No disrespect to April Robinson or Megan McConnell, who, by the way, also make up each a quarter of my Mount Rushmore. So April Robinson's also on here for me. She started 133 games for Duquesne basketball, second only to Megan McConnell's 136. April led Duquesne to the only A10 regular season or postseason title Duquesne women's basketball ever had, and the NCAA round of 32. If that team doesn't run into UConn, they probably make the Sweet 16. And they actually led UConn at one point during that tournament, which nobody else did back then. It was 2016. Her number is retired. She's the all-time assists leader in program history. She, I think, may have been an honorable mention All-American somewhere. But yeah, big fan of April. And then Megan McConnell, four triple doubles, which is it's so rare in women's basketball. She got to the WNBA for a cup of Mark Draskovich or coffee. Got hurt. I think she'll be back. Currently with having a great season out in down in Australia. So Meg McConnell, all-time great Duquesne Duke, men's or women's, but she's on my women's Mount Rushmore. And here's one that I don't think anybody had. Maybe Nick's pretty smart about this, but I put Olivia Farwell on mine.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody else knows Olivia. You got her.
I
So
got her.
Olivia Farwell, she's a four-time All-American. This is a varsity sport at Duquesne. It's an NCAA sport. Bowler. She was a four-time All-American bowler, and no one had ever been a four-time All-American until Olivia Farwell. She's the current head coach at Mount St. Mary's. She was the Professional Women's Bowling Association Rookie of the Year in 2023. She competed multiple times for Team USA. You want to talk about resumes for varsity athletes at Duquesne? Olivia Farwell did things no one, men or women's, ever did. So Olivia Farwell's on my top four for the women's Mount Rushmore for sure. Nick, sounds like you had Olivia.
Yeah, I did. Similar reasons. I tried spreading it out a little more on mine. I had Liv, I had Megan Halede, and then I added Maya Matissa after her incredible season this year, and now getting a tryout with the Chicago women's MLS team. So similar to Meg, she put Duquesne on the map this year from a soccer standpoint with her incredible goal scoring and just point getting season this year. And now she can maybe translate that into a very tough to get professional career in an American professional sport at the highest level. So those are my four. Not too many differences, but just Liv in particular really deserved the shout out because I mean, if you're going to talk about best Duquesne athletes of all time from a results standpoint, she's got to be up there.
Right, men's or women's. And she was a sports information and media major. So, right, she's a great kid in general. The Maya Matissa news, I did see the tryout. I'm glad you mentioned that. We should make sure we tell our audience about that. Maya Matissa did recently earn a not only was she a United Soccer Coaches Scholar All-American and was this, National Player of the Year watch list, but she got a chance to have a nice professional career. What was the team that she's got the tryout for, Nick?
It's Chicago. Let me get the
Is there a
name.
women's MLS? Maybe I missed
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's the women's equivalent of the MLS, the Chicago Stars.
That's
It's the
right.
preseason camp invite. That's
National Women's Soccer League.
yep.
Oh, good luck to Maya Matissa. That's a good call. I'll go to coffee.
I think I'm going to be repetitive with three of the four that you have. Of Megan, Maya, and Corey Halady. I think you have to put them in there. The only one that I kind of broadened is Coach Susie McConnell-Cero. She really, I think, brought the program an awful long way from kind of a mid-major to actually doing very, very well. For all the reasons Rob said about the others, I really haven't that much more to add.
Yeah, the only thing, I mean, I thought about Megan, excuse me, I thought about Susie only because, right, she's maybe the best women's basketball player, in the country's history. Really, if you look at it objectively, they think about Caitlin Clark these days. They don't realize how great Susan McConnell-Serial was. She was well before her time. If she was alive, well, she is alive. If her career had happened, when the WNBA had its fame like it does now, I mean, she'd be making great money and she ended up becoming a WNBA All-Star when she was in her late 30s after having children, I want to believe. Um, it just was again just born too early to bear the fruit of that, or excuse me, to like benefit from all that. But my time, the reason I kept her off, Mark, was I just, to me, she didn't do enough as a coach, but we haven't had that many great female coaches at Duquesne either, for better or for worse. So it's not like it's a bad poll. Rudy, whom do you have?
Well, you got to put Meg on there, Megan, Corey, and dude, I'm not that familiar. I'm not gonna say that I'm some kind of expert about women's basketball, but you know, uh, and McConnell, I think uh, deserves a lot of credit for Serial to come to coach here because she kind of did put us on the map.
Mhm.
And Bert is really a continuation of that and maybe a betterment of that. Uh,
Yeah, it's kind of
and
like
so
Jamie Dixon following behind Ben Howland. It's
Yeah.
like Ben Howland was the one who put you on the map, and then Jamie
right,
continued it on.
right. And so that that I don't want to get into try to go into the stats of the ladies and stuff. So I'm just going to leave it at 3 here. Okay.
All right, I got one in my lifetime, guys. I want to get to. Mark, you'll love this one. So in my lifetime, if I had to pick, so I was born in 1983. So I'm the second youngest one here, but Lee Bodden is on mine in my lifetime.
Mm,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Lee was the best football player I ever played with. He had a 13-year NFL career. Um, and in his final, he used to just, I mean, I couldn't believe the athletic ability of this guy. I mean, we would work out at the Palumbo Center, and there on the old concourse, for any Duquesne fans who remember, before it was renovated into the Cooper Fieldhouse, the old concourse used to have these signs that would be above us that would like say the seating areas or whatever, down toward the if you're walking toward the old concession stand in one of the corners. And these signs used to like hang like 13, 14 feet above us. And Lee would just from a standstill, not even running start, just stand, jump, and hit them, and it was like, holy cow, just could do anything on the football field. Hit hard, exploded in terms of speed, the hands, his closing ability. He was just a complete shutdown corner who, despite that, still found ways to get picks. I can't believe people kept throwing at him, probably because film study wasn't like how it is now. But he had a 13-year career in the NFL. Before that, of course, at Duquesne was a multiple-time Division I AA All-American. That was what it was then called instead of FCS, and not mid-major, just all of 1 AA. He was the MAC, or Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference Defensive Player of the Year, probably unanimously. It was also, these All-American honors. He was consensus, both junior and senior. He had 28 picks, which tied the previous FCS record. He has every Duquesne interception record. He once picked off 7 passes. Well, that was in his last season, including 3 in one game against Iona. Duquesne's defense was ranked number 1 in all of 2002 in 1 AA in total and scoring defense, second in pass and pass efficiency defense. And then, of course, he was the Atlantic 10 long jump champion in 2002. I like to Lee. You referenced Lee as a trivia question because he and I are the only 2 athletes in school history to be first team all conference in 2 distinct sports. We both did it in football and track, but Lee clearly had the more memorable career. So in my lifetime, Lee is up there, obviously. And this is where I put Keith Dambrot. So in my lifetime, Keith is the most memorable coach in Duquesne athletics since '83 for me, obviously. Mike James is another one of my picks.
hmm
Mike James had the longest NBA career of any Duquesne player. He played for 12 seasons in the NBA, and he won a title with the Pistons. He was the first undrafted NBA player to average 20 points a game. He averaged 20.3 points per game for the Raptors in '06, when he had been in the league for quite a while. This was like after he won with the Pistons in '04. He was in the Slam Dunk Championship of the '98 Final Four, one of 8 players in the whole country. He led the Dukes in steals and assists sophomore, junior, senior year. I mean, just a fantastic Duquesne basketball player and a long NBA career, and he's had his number retired. He played for the Dukes in the '90s. And then Ray Goss is my fourth. I thought there's got to be a
Oh
spot here
yeah.
for Ray. Not a coach, not a player, but very much a part of the fabric of Duquesne University athletics. This is his 58th season doing radio play-by-play, radio slash streaming. for Duquesne athletics, for men's basketball in particular. He was the 2025 Woody Durham Voice of College Sports Award winner from the National Sports Media Association. He called his first game in 1968 in the NIT at Madison Square Garden and began full time the next season, 68-69. He's only missed 2 games since then. 2 games. He was in the Duquesne Athletics Hall of Fame in '93. Just Ray Goss is Duquesne Athletics for so many people, and so he's our Bob Prince, if you will, or our Mike Lang, if you want to use other Duquesne sports analogies. So there's the 4 in my lifetime. How about you, Nick?
So I did it based off of my start of my college career, so it's a little more modern.
Okay.
So I did Christian Kuntz as the defensive end football nod. I think he was the all-time single season sack leader or all-time sack leader at the time that he stopped or graduated Duquesne, and then
Yeah, I don't think it was single season, but I think he was all time. Yeah.
all time, and
Yeah.
then went on to jumping from practice squad as a pass rusher, and then converting to a long snapper, and now being the Steelers long snapper for the past few years. And then I'm gonna have my personal bias of you can't not have me pick a McConnell. So TJ, despite his only being 2 years, I just the 2 years that he played were phenomenal, and I think he will possibly pass that Mike James longest tenured NBA career here
Right.
shortly. He did just get a record for second most assists off the bench player in NBA history at 3,000. So he's still making a mark and still playing at a very high level. The other two, I kept with my diversity of sports. Jaden Daw for men's soccer. He got drafted in the first round of the Columbus Crew after he was done at Duquesne. And then Ian Welch, a long jumper who holds both the triple jump and long jump records still to this day. He was in my orientation group back in freshman year of college, and always going to shout him out because he did some incredible things. Truly a great athlete.
You know who you're reminding me, we're speaking about track, and I remember Ian Welch, but I wish I could remember the name of the sprinter who just dominated the Atlantic 10 for Duquesne. He was 100 and 200-meter dash, just won it almost every year.
Is that Mo
Um,
Cisse?
say it again.
Mo Cisse?
No, it's not him, but that's Mohammed. I remember Mohammed. I'm gonna look this name up. But there's a sprinter that the Dukes had very recently who just for like 4 years just terrorized the sprinting events for the Atlantic 10. But I'll go to coffee while I look that up. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to mention Lee Bodden. To be honest with you, for all the reasons you said, probably the best all-around athlete that I can remember at Duquesne. For all the reasons you said, not only did he have the athletics, he was a very not a me first type of player either. I think he had a lot of smarts as well. And considering how few people ever threw at him, for him to come down with 28 interceptions is phenomenal.
Exactly.
Um, I'm going to kind of cheat the way we did with Dan and Susie and then Dan, with Gattuso / Smith, since we're kind of talking of a continuation there. Um, I didn't know which one to put first. Gattuso started and built it, and then Schmidt continued. Schmidt, I think, I'd give him the edge since he has more all-time wins and he's been there longer, and kept the program going. So that's my number 2. Keith is my third. Doing something nobody else did. Ron Everhart came close, was not given that much of a chance, but I think
Right.
Ron kind of talked Keith into taking it.
Oh, really?
I know they had conversations.
Oh, they talked with each other before he took on the job?
I wasn't in the room, but I've heard that they spoke to each other. Keith kind of called him up when he was in the process of thinking about taking it. I
All
think he
right.
probably turned it down the first time because he wasn't getting the support he needed. And then later, he ended up taking it with some reservations that I'm hoping it was a good decision for him. My fourth, I'm kind of tempted to say Dave Loya, the first in a long string of quarterbacks,
Dave Loya. Wow, that's a deep pull, man.
only because I worked with him at East Allegheny. I was his principal.
Uh,
But I came up with Dan McCann instead. Dan McCann, rebuilding the program after it'd been out of out of the since we were out of a club for such a long time. He put his own resources into the place, um, made something from nothing, and I don't think would be anywhere near where we are as a football program without Dan.
Dave Loya was first in a long string of great quarterbacks here. It went from
Yeah,
Loya to Zimmerman to Lobig, and it
yeah,
was just, I mean, we had just a fantastic run of starting quarterbacks who all just terrorized the MAC and
yeah.
one double A mid-major football. So yeah, shout out to Dave Loya. That's a good pull. Most people don't remember Dave, but Dave is in the Hall of Fame here, as is Zimmerman and Lobig. So very cool. Dave will actually be a part of he was on the staff for the '03 team that's going in the Hall of Fame this year as a team. So but Dan McCann, yeah, you can't go wrong with Dan. I mean, the big guy, he is Duquesne football to many people. I'm reading the book by Sam Costanzo right now. We had Sam on the show, the Renaissance book. Mark, have you had a chance to check that out yet? The Renaissance book by Sam?
No, not, but I do need to give a plug to a book where I kind of rely an awful lot on. Have you ever seen the book by Dr. Risher?
Yeah, The Spirit That Gives Life, his
Yeah,
Duquesne history book.
it's out of print. We got to do a update on it.
Good point. Good point. By the way, I looked up the guy I was thinking of. This dude, and you made me think of him, Nick, and I should have been more partial to track because I'm such a proud track alum, but Isaac Elliott was the guy's name. Elliott tortured the A10. He won the A10 gold in the 100, 200, and 21, also in 19. Um, he was, I think, in 22. He might have been, I feel like he won it three times. There's all the school records he had too. But he just dominated the 100 and 200. And then he was an academic All-American, which I love, and was the student athlete of the year for Duquesne Athletics one year. So there's a if we had to carve a fifth head into the modern, maybe for Isaac. All right, anybody else, Rudy, we left out?
No, no, due to man, my brain's exhausted. No, no, you guys added everything that I need to add. I just a couple of names that Mark mentioned, Lee Bowden, yeah, maybe, and Schmidt. So yeah,
I'm always going
that's
to be
it.
partial to Greg. I had Greg as my coach, so Greg beat a lot of teams we kind of had no business beating. I mean,
Yeah.
the way he recruited, for us to beat teams on the road,
Mm.
at Holy Cross, for example, then at VMI, and just we look at it now like, well, we play Pitt now, so what's the big deal? But the MAC was a non-scholarship football conference, and Greg recruited in many ways. We knew we had other Division I sports, right? So we had guys like myself who could play multiple sports. We had Randy Volakovic was a receiver, but also played for the baseball team. And Lee and myself played track. Mike Hilliard was a track athlete. For a long time, the track record book was football players. And, that was one way to help get players here. And Greg would say, look, we might be a non-scholarship conference, but we're playing a regular FCS conference, a non-conference schedule. And we were always playing up. And Greg won those games a lot. Not to mention Greg, before I got there, if there had been a national championship for mid-major football, he would have won it a couple of times, but there just wasn't a major poll like there was starting in '01, which we finally got to the top of in '03. So, and I'll get to see Greg again soon. I want to tell everybody if you're going to the Penguins game, January 31st, it's the 2016 Stanley Cup Championship reunion game.
Mm.
I was able to get the Penguins to welcome the '03 Dukes to that game. So the '03 Dukes will be at that game. Before puck drop, you'll see 10 of us on the board, and they'll give us a shout out as of making the Hall of Fame the day before and announcing us as the national champion Dukes. And congratulations, they're with us today. And then after the
Big
game,
shot.
yeah,
Big
it's
shout
cool,
out.
right?
Hey, dude. Hey, is anybody going to be videoing that, dude?
I'll get the video. I'll get it.
Have your girl video it or something. One of your
Well,
kids.
yeah, we
Come
know
on,
we know the
man.
people. Yeah, so one of my students does video for the team, and that's a good call, Rudy. I'll get a copy of that. We'll try to
Come.
play it on the air.
I mean,
The
dude.
After the game, we're going down on the ice for photos. How cool is
All
that?
right,
So,
all right.
yeah,
Get
I
one
mean,
with get
people talk about wanting to see Phil Kessel or something, but they don't realize Bob Healy and Greg Gattuso are going to be there too. I don't see yeah.
All
Um,
right, dude.
Thanks. Well, listen, we've been on the air
We're a long
We've been
time here.
recording for a while. This is one of our longest shows. Um,
In history.
yeah, we gave Rudy a lot of work to do. So, unless there's something I missed, Nick, thanks for mentioning the Matisse news. Well, you guys, I'm going to give everybody a chance for one final word. We'll definitely come back next week and talk more about maybe some of the winter sports that are in contention right now and the spring sports coming up. But for Nick, Mark, Rudy, any last words from any of you, or are we just we kind of covered it all tonight,
I think
didn't
we're
we?
all talked out tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
for asking me. I was very surprised that you'd want me on.
Hey, well, we'll have
No,
to have you back, man. That was great.
are you kidding me? I mean,
Yeah,
you're kind of a legend, dude.
I agree. Mark,
All
thank
right,
you.
dude.
Rudy, Nick, thanks as always. Shoo, shoo. Rah, rah. Come on, Dukes. Let's
Let's
get
go,
it.
Dukes.
Bye, guys. Thank you.